Now, Sports Talk with Brodes. Here's Hunter Brody.
Wow. Can you believe it? This is definitely one of those moments where you will not forget where you were when you heard the news that Doug Pederson and the Philadelphia Eagles were parting ways. The news came down around 2:04, 2:05 in the afternoon, which is literally minutes into the Sports Bash on 97.3. We had Sal Powell call us to assess the situation. We had Jeff Mosher of Inside the Birds join the party after Jeffrey Lurie spoke, which was a disaster of a press conference, although we should not be surprised by that whatsoever. What's crazy to me is the 4-11-1 record isn't even what got Doug Pederson out of town. Of course, that played a role. If the Eagles won 10 games this season, we're not sitting here today. So obviously, yes, the 4-11-1 record is part of the equation, but he would have been here if they could have came to common grounds on what the future of the offense was going to be. It's clear that they could not get on the same page when it came to who was going to be a part of the coaching staff, and that is where they decided to split. I feel this is one of those relationships where if you ask Jeffrey Lurie what happened, he would say he fired Doug Pederson. If you ask Doug Pederson what happened, he would say that he walked away because this was a horrible spot to be and it was a mess. And I feel I'm in such an awkward situation because if I'm looking at the ownership side of things, and Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman, they're a combination. They're one party in this topic. So those two should allow the head coach to have say. Those two should give Doug Pederson power to hire who he wants as a staff. That's what you get when you get hired at that job. You pick the guys that you want to work with every day. You pick the guys that you trust when you're in the conferences together, when you come up with the game plan for each week, and when you assess film, you will happily take the input of these coaches because they're your guys. That's part of being a head coach. So how can you not allow that person to do that? On the other side of things, Doug, can you read the room? In what world do you think it would be okay to go into a second meeting with the owner who clearly wasn't happy with the first one and say, I want Press Taylor as my OC. I would like to bring back Corey Unlin as a part of my staff. How can you not see the disconnect? That's where I look at Doug and go, dude, you are clueless. You cannot think on your feet. Unless, and this is a big question, was Doug Pederson so stoked and so happy to be let go? Did he walk out of that room giving a big sigh of relief? And I can tie this to a personal experience. And I use this one a lot, but I think that you can absolutely combine the two. I've had a moment where I walked out of a meeting with someone very important feeling like a monkey was lifted off of my back, feeling like there was just a new perspective on life because I was so stressed out, I was so mentally beaten down, and I was so exhausted, physically and mentally fatigued. I played hockey for 20 years of my life, from age 4 to 24. Well, when I was a sophomore in college playing college hockey, I was not having fun. I did not love the game. I hated going to workouts in the morning. I hated going to practice. I did not love going to the rink, and I was not thrilled with the game anymore. So I walked into my coach's office at the end of the year meetings, and I had to look him in the eyes and say, Coach, I don't have the passion for the game anymore. I do not enjoy myself anymore. I feel like I am beaten down. All I do is think about this. Every day, every night, when I try and fall asleep, I'm staring at the ceiling and I'm just lost. I'm so defeated because this was my life forever. And all of a sudden, it's not. I don't feel the same way, and I have a passion for sports talk radio, so I want to pursue that. That's what went on in my mind. So the moment I left that meeting, when I left his office, it was a whole new world. It was a whole new feeling. I can't even explain it, honestly. It's like I'm lost for words trying to actually explain that feeling. And that's how I look at Doug Pederson today, leaving Florida, just going, whew. This is nice. all right, where do we go from here? Because he's going to get another job. And that just shows you the turmoil involved. And I question, what does this mean for the next person who is looking for a job and that gets interviewed by Howie Roseman and Doug Pederson? This is not normal, okay? It's just not. And the way I look at it is, Doug Pederson will succeed elsewhere. He won't be a bum coach. He won't be a 4-win coach. You can make the argument that Doug Pederson had to deal with a plethora of injuries, so much that it played a huge role in the outcome of his seasons. And those 9-7 finishes, was that amazing? Would other coaches fail there? Would other coaches have 6-win seasons when they went through all of those injuries in the last handful of seasons? And because of Doug Pederson being who he is late down the stretch in December, they overachieved and were 9-7. I'm not saying that's fully how I feel. I'm just looking at this objectively and saying you could make the argument. I don't think it's as easy as the guy won a Super Bowl. What are you doing? You can't get rid of him. That's silly, because Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl, John Gruden won a Super Bowl, and people are not chomping at the bits to have them be the face of their franchise. I just think whether Doug is a good coach or a bad coach, that's irrelevant. It was so toxic and so dysfunctional that it reached a point where there's no going back. And you needed to start fresh. You needed to get a whole new regime in here. Now you're at the point where defensive coordinator, defensive coaches, offensive coordinator, head coach. I know Jeffrey Lurie alluded to him being open to defensive guys being the head coach. I'm not really buying that, though. I think that was more of just an answer, trying to keep people happy, giving you owner speak more so than what he truly believes, because he noted a bunch of times how important it is to get a better offense. He views the offense. You need an elite offense. Offense, 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 offense kept coming out of his mouth. So it's clear he values that way more than the production on the defensive side. I would be blown away if he ever really looked at a defensive coach as the head coach. Although you can look around the league and see that is successful. It's not as if you can't, and if you do, you're just going to be an embarrassing franchise. Of course, you can have a successful offense with the D guy being the head of what your team's identity really is. But I digress on that part. I just think you had to hit a refresh button. The problem is Howie Roseman is still in place, and he's now going to be a part of another head coaching change. And when you hear Jeffrey Lurie speak about this, man, he's in denial. He's delusional. He's not properly understanding how much of an issue he is. And Rob Maaddi, I thought, asked a very great question about assessing Howie. Jeffrey Lurie went on this speech about how they've had success and we win divisions and NFC championship games. Yeah, when Andy Reid was in town, when Andy Reid was here, he was the guy making the personnel decisions. And I'm not discrediting the Super Bowl win, but when he was talking about all the success that this franchise has had since 2000, a big portion of that was when one man was making all of the personnel decisions. Howie wasn't in play, and he's raving about how great this evaluation, this talent evaluation core is inside the organization. He doesn't see it. He's not comprehending that that's a major flaw. So Rob Maaddi brought up, you have one Pro Bowler, and it's not even that hard to make the Pro Bowl. And oh, by the way, that's the guy that almost got ran out of town. So how can you possibly look at that and say things are fine? I really hate to go down this road, but I just need to lay it out so you can see it on a map. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside getting drafted over DK Metcalf, then force you to take Jalen Reagor over another position in the first round, which then leads you to possibly taking a wide receiver again in this year's draft, where you could have easily fixed the issues. If you take DK Metcalf in the second round, and then in the first round next year you get Patrick Queen, and then this year in the first round you have another option to fill a different hole, you're not lacking in all of these issues, and you have players who can play in a way financially that can help you when you are in such a hole with the cap and millions of dollars over the cap. And I do think they're going to find themselves out of this eventually. I was surprised. Jeffrey Lurie kind of looked at this long-term as if it's time to seriously look long-term here and not so much 2021, which is what Doug Pederson wanted to do. Okay. I mean, I don't know what that means. Are you trying to tell me Doug Pederson wasn't okay with maybe retooling a bit? He was going all in? I find that hard to believe, saying I want Press Taylor's going all in. And if that's Doug thinking he's going all in, I think that is another problem that was happening with the head coach. He's delusional as well, and he's the worst when it comes to coaches. I've been stressing this all season long. It's not just about his coaching staff. He doesn't coach his coaches. Andy Reid, look at the tree that Andy Reid has. He is phenomenal at coaching his coaches, and that is something that is beneficial to your franchise. Where you are constantly teaching these people what to do, then you can take a step back and allow them to do what they need to. You don't need to have fingerprints everywhere. You tell these coaches how to do things, what you want them to do day in and day out, and then you trust them to do it because you're smart enough to give them all the information. He's not smart enough to give them the information, and then you're seeing the domino effect happen just from the coaching tree standpoint. There's a reason why Andy Reid is so damn successful, and every person that comes up as the OC then gets hired and then has success elsewhere. But how come Doug is the one struggling? And yes, struggling is fair to say, even with the Super Bowl. I really do hate that narrative that automatically means you're some special coach. It was an awesome run. Doug Pederson has traits that works, and he has traits that are foolish. The problem is these foolish traits seem to happen on game day, on the sidelines, when it comes to game time decisions, when it comes to in-game decisions, when it comes to scheming and game planning throughout the week, and that's a major problem. The locker room stuff can only carry you so far. But when you don't have the X's and O's side of things, you're in trouble. Before we continue, I do want to let you know about my friends at DraftKings. While the holiday season may be over, the sports calendar is in full swing this week. From collegiate to professional sports, there's no shortage of action, and there's no better place to get in on all the action than with DraftKings Sportsbook. To celebrate this year's football playoffs, DraftKings is giving all new players the chance to bet on any of this weekend's professional football games at 100-1 odds. That's right. All you have to do is bet $1 on any football game this weekend, and if your team wins, you cash $100. While we're all excited for football, let's not forget the 2021 basketball season has tipped off. So download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Brodes when you sign up to get 100-1 odds on any football game this weekend. That's code Brodes for new players to get a shot at $100 on any football action this weekend. For a limited time, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. I think now is a perfect time to take some anytime hotline calls. I'm so interested to see how the people reacted. Are they happy? Are they pissed? There's so many emotions here. Doug Pederson, he's the guy who brought the first Super Bowl. At the same time, it's been ugly. Let's be realistic. It has not been a beautiful sight for a handful of years. So why don't we start this off?
Hey, Brodes. I know you got a lot of calls, and I'm going to keep this nice and short. Wow. How in the world do we fire Doug Pederson after winning the Super Bowl 4 years ago in 2017? How do we fire him? I mean, that is just crazy. It shocked my mind that we literally fired a coach who won the Super Bowl 4 years ago with a backup quarterback. Yes, a backup quarterback. Who is now, he got backed up to Mitch Trubisky. I mean, how do we fire this man? This organization is screwed. I don't.
Well, that is an interesting way to look at it because this organization is so horrendous and it's ran in a gross way. Should we feel confident that they can get the next hire right? Can we feel confident that they made the proper decision? I've been so hard on Doug this year, and I've been pretty open about still giving him another opportunity because 4-11-1, that's such an outlier to who he has been since he has taken the job in Philly. So I think it's fair to say, look, these guys are nuts. These two clowns in the front office have been making poor decisions for quite some time. So can we trust them? I think that's totally fair. But I can't sit here and say because you won a Super Bowl, you are here forever. I mean, where do we draw the line? At what point can we question Doug Pederson? How long is the leash? Is the leash forever? Is the leash 10 years? Just because you won the bowl, I mean, seriously, I want you to put this in perspective. Would you be happy with Mike McCarthy? Would you be happy with John Gruden? Because I think a lot of the people that look at Doug Pederson and value what he brought here because he lifted that Lombardi trophy would probably say no to both of those hires if they were brought into town. So you can't be blinded by it. I know it's an emotional tie. I know we all wanted it. We finally got it. We waited 50 plus years. We went down Broad Street. We never thought it would be realistic. We never thought the day would come, and it did. But at some point, you need to assess the reality of it and really dissect what Doug Pederson has done here since then. And it's been a handful of years, and it's been ugly. It's been trending in the wrong direction. Now, is that because of what he was handed? If you are a chef and someone else is picking out your ingredients, can you be very successful if they give you a bunch of crap? No. The answer is no. And Howie Roseman is a bigger problem than Doug Pederson. But here's reality of the situation, and I'm not saying it's right, but Jeffrey Lurie is tied to this man. He's unwilling to move on from this man. He's not willing to admit that this guy is making a crucial mistake, it seems, every single year on draft night. So what are we supposed to do? Just stick with Doug Pederson, knowing that Howie Roseman's a bigger issue? It doesn't mean that Doug Pederson's not an issue at all. He is not being good enough. It's just that simple. He's not doing a good enough job. And if the owner is not going to part ways with the GM, who's the next guy? The next guy's Doug Pederson, whether it's right or wrong. But I can't personally get behind. You can't move on from a coach because he won a Super Bowl. That year, while I'm not taking away credit from him, but that year just felt right. That year just went smooth. That year, Howie Roseman hit on everyone. So if you the caller, if you hate Howie Roseman and you give credit to Doug Pederson for winning that Super Bowl, you got to give credit to Howie Roseman for hitting on everyone that year in free agency, on making that trade for Jay Ajayi. But is that really who he is? Is Howie Roseman really that great elite GM that hits on every trade? No, it was a special year that everything flowed properly. That's how I think it went for Doug Pederson. It was that right year, but that's not really who he is. So it is okay to move on from the Super Bowl winning head coach.
What's up, Brodes? Pretty surprising to me that he got fired. I knew it was coming, but ultimately with the changes he was going to make with bringing in all in-house people to move up and take positions that way, I would rather have him gone and just start fresh in the coaching staff. I didn't want Press Taylor being my offensive coordinator. And if I would have picked anyone, I would probably go with Eric Bieniemy. He'd be my first choice, or Brian Dable from the Bills, and build up coaching staff like that and bring in all new coordinators and let the head coach do what he wants from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think Eric Bieniemy is going to be the hottest item out there. I don't know if the Eagles are going to be able to land him. Everyone is going to want him. But there has been reports about Lincoln Riley. And that one's interesting because you're going down the road of a Chip Kelly kind of thing where he is the hot item. He's the hot coaching hire. But then you question, okay, do you give him the keys? Probably not. So is this a hire because they feel comfortable with a guy who doesn't have much say, doesn't have much power? He will be happy just to be in the environment of the NFL. Now I'm looking through their eyes, through their glasses, Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie. Are they making a pick that makes them feel comfortable? Like, we don't have to give this guy what he wants. We can still have say. We can still make all the decisions because this guy has no pedigree. This guy can't say, do you know who I am? I'm Lincoln Riley. That doesn't work, no matter how much success you had in the college game. So are they targeting a college coach for a reason? Now, I'm not against Lincoln Riley, and I think that adds a whole nother element when it comes to the quarterback controversy. And Jeffrey Lurie used the word assets when discussing the quarterbacks. Because most are speculating. Did they pick Carson Wentz over Doug Pederson? I think he picked Howie Roseman over Doug Pederson. Because those were the two kind of pointing the fingers, getting frustrated with one another. One guy wanted one thing, the other guy wanted the other. I think the Carson Wentz conversation had a play because there's clearly a disconnect from Doug Pederson and Carson Wentz. Those two, they're not on the same page. They don't have a great relationship. It is fractured. It's pretty damn obvious that report that Mortensen put out there just a couple weeks ago is very true. So I think that played a role, but I think more of the decision was between Doug Pederson, Howie Roseman, more than it was the quarterback. This gives me the belief, though, that Carson Wentz is going to stay more than I felt that way a couple weeks ago or even a couple days ago. A couple days ago, I thought, look, there's a chance, whether it's right or wrong, whether it's the biggest dead cap hit in NFL history or not, they were going to find a way to move on from Carson because it wasn't going to work here. But bringing in Lincoln Riley adds this whole nother conversation to who's going to be that starting quarterback. He has had time with Jalen Hurts already. They know the system that they both want to run. They've done it at a high level before. Would that put Carson Wentz behind the eight ball right from the jump? Would that put him in a sticky situation automatically with the snap of his fingers? What does Carson Wentz have to say about that hire? Would he kind of lean another way? It's not that he has any say in this, but internally, is he thinking, oh, great, are you kidding me? Here we go again. You're going to bring in the most recent coach of the quarterback behind me? When will I ever catch a break? We haven't heard from the quarterback since the whole debacle went down, which I think is a joke. At some point, Carson, come on, show your face, say something, give us something to work with. Let us know how you're feeling. Update the people. I think it's time.
I'm going to miss him. I ain't going to lie. I ain't going to miss that shitty coaching, but he was our Super Bowl coach, bro. I'm going to miss him. Rip the Dougie P, man. Rip the Dougie P. Enjoy all that ice cream, Dougie P, out in your fridge. Enjoy that Super Bowl ring. Time to rebuild and win another Super Bowl, baby.
Okay, all right, I like that. It's understanding it's time to move on, but you appreciate what he did here. And it's funny that you bring that up because we were talking about this on the radio today. Someone like Jason Peters. Right now, you look at him and you're thinking, the guy's a joke. I can't believe he's here. But he had a Hall of Fame career for you. As time passes, you will always appreciate what he did for this city and for this franchise. It's just so raw that he played so poorly as of late that you don't think that way. With Doug, right now, you're in such a miserable mindset. You're so unhappy. You hate where we are. So you don't appreciate him. As the years pass, though, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years down the road, how do you feel about Doug? Do you hate the face as much? Do you look at him differently? Do you value what he brought to the table in a different light? I think it all depends, too, on who's here during that tenure. If you're firing 2 coaches in 10 more years, hopefully Howie Roseman's gone by then, because then you're constantly picking the wrong coaches. But then I think you appreciate Doug Pederson more. If you, let's say, I'm just hypothetically speaking, hire Lincoln Riley and he becomes a stud, he becomes a star, and he's great, I don't know. Do you look at Doug Pederson in a different way? I mean, I don't know. I do think it depends on what you experience in the next 5, 6, 7 years, and that plays a role in your mindset and how it changes on what Doug Pederson. I guess you can argue, even if you do find the next stud, it would still help you appreciate Doug long term because it's like, hey, look, we found our guy, so we're happy, so we can still look at Doug with this positivity because he still was that first one. He's always going to have that emotional tie to a lot of people, regardless on how everything fell apart. And it falling apart to this degree is historic. It is pathetic. It tells you everything you need to know about the dumpster fire internally. And this is what happens constantly. It doesn't need to get this way. But every time it's the end of a tenure with a coach here, it falls apart to this monster epic degree. That doesn't happen. And I also think it's crazy that this owner always looks at the Steelers, the Patriots, the Ravens, teams that stick with one guy. You want to stay true to one person. You want to keep one guy and build with them over and over and over again. Yet here he is pulling the plug 5 years in. Yet with Chip Kelly, he pulled the plug 3 years later. And I'm not saying that was the wrong decision, but for someone who praises sticking with one guy and really building a culture through a regime, he's making a lot of moves. It's like he's going against what his philosophy is. So that also is a problem. that your owner is trying to sell one thing, yet he's completely doing another.
You know, I was thinking Eagles fans from in like 25 years will be like, man, we had a coach and in 2017 he won the Super Bowl and he got fired 3 years later. Why is that? Because a blind squirrel. What was the saying? A blind squirrel will find a nut every once in a while.
Okay. I don't even know how to respond to that. Is that sort of like tying together what I said after the first caller with this? Doug Pederson, he found that nut. The blind squirrel found the nut. Just like Howie Roseman that year hit on everything. He found that nut as well. And that's sort of the way that I see it. I don't think Doug Pederson is a bum. As brutal as I have been, I don't think he's a bum. He is someone who can bring stability to a franchise, and guys love him. You see Zach Ertz put up a post, Ronnie McLeod put up a post. Every single person who played for Doug Pederson, except for Carson Wentz, put up a really nice post about what he meant. This guy has a connection with his players. Teams will value that, and teams will look at that and say, okay, we can totally have this guy in our organization, and he will be a nice piece. It's funny, I was listening to Dave Zangaro and Ruben Frank of NBC Sports Philadelphia. They were mentioning maybe Doug Pederson being an offensive coordinator, as if the stain of 4-11-1 might actually be so brutal that he doesn't get another coaching job right from the jump, head coaching job that is, and how ugly Week 17 is might force owners to shy away from him. I find that really hard to believe. His resume on the surface, before you dive into context, is definitely nice and appealing. I would be shocked if he's not a head coach somewhere. I also saw people tweeting about how great he would be in the coaching game, in the college coaching game. I don't see him going down to that level, although could you imagine the way that he would rally the troops and the way that he would recruit people? I do think that he has the ability to be a good college coach. I'd be stunned, though, if he wasn't on the radar of people instantly. I mean, come on. That resume definitely speaks for himself, even though we know more. We have more insight, and we have more depth and more knowledge on his game day situations and his play calling and the way that he designs his offense. It doesn't satisfy us, but there's definitely organizations out there who have been in such horrendous spots that Doug Pederson's resume is appealing to them. But to get back to the caller, the blind squirrel found the nut. I was a little confused on where he was going. Was he saying that it's ridiculous that the coach was fired after 3 years? Or was he saying that it was justifiable? I think it's justifiable. I really do. There's no way that you can look at him and say he's doing a good job as of late. There's just no way.
Hey, Brodes. This news wasn't as shocking to me, and I agree with the move. I like Doug and his aggressiveness. Yes, he brought a Super Bowl, but I think it's a little different now, and definitely a whole new team. I just don't like Doug as much because he gets away from the scheme and the game plan and just can't think on his feet. Some of the decisions he makes are just straight up dumb and very questionable. Wouldn't be surprised if he went to the Jets or a team like the Falcons. I think they should try to hire Bieniemy and promote Deuce to OC. And finally, they need to fire Howie Roseman. Love the videos. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think you and everybody else wants them to fire Howie Roseman as well. And until this owner is seriously going to assess that specific spot, the GM chair, we're not going to get that move. So as of now, as much as Howie Roseman is the issue, the real issue is the owner for not making a move at the GM position. He's the one that needs to make that decision. He's the one that has to make that change. And it is kind of noticeable that he's not even looking in that direction at all. He's not even thinking about it whatsoever. You brought up Deuce Staley. Jeffrey Lurie brought up Deuce Staley, and he's going to be a candidate for the head coaching job. I like him, and I'm like torn because I feel, do you go after the sexy young guy in Lincoln Riley? Do you go after someone who deserves an opportunity like Deuce Staley, but he hasn't yet had the opportunity to prove himself and take that next jump? Or do you go after someone who is a veteran and experienced and will give you a sense of veteran presence? Like a Jim Caldwell, like a person like that who had success. He's been around the block. He has been involved before. I don't think they're going to do that, but I also don't think it would be a bad idea to go with an experienced head coach before. Now, you're going to go out on a limb and take a shot. They've done that in the past. The reason I bring that up is because they have done that. Andy Reid was a shot in the dark. Chip Kelly, shot in the dark. Doug Pederson, nobody wanted this guy. It was a shot in the dark. So just based off of what they've done in the past, I think that they would go down that road, and it's clear and it's evident that they are at least trying that and having interviews in that area. And I'm not against those guys. I'm not making it seem like I'm unwilling to go down that road. I would love for Deuce Staley to get that chance. If not now, I don't think he ever will. And it does feel like he's stuck in this certain spot. You've heard great things about what he does from a leader of men standpoint. I just question, though, when it comes to more offensive scheme stuff, is he going to need some help? He knows the run game, and he knows that side of things, which is great considering we just went from a coach that had 6 carries to Miles Sanders to a guy that's in love with the run game. But will he need help in other areas with the pass game? Are we going to be bringing in an offensive coordinator that's great in the pass game? Or are we going to go with another method of $10 billion assistant coaches, pass game coordinator, assistant passing game coordinator if Deuce Staley becomes the head coach? I don't know. I feel at this point it's so wild. It's so crazy in there. What if you brought someone in who has done it before, who has been the face of a locker room before, and has been involved in NFL head coach locker rooms before? Like he's been an NFL head coach before.
Doug is gone. Thank the football gods. He is gone. We can thank him for the Super Bowl, but I hope the door didn't hit his ass on the way out. Now, if you ask me, there's only 2 ways we can go forward with this. We need to hire either Brian Daboll from Buffalo or Arthur Smith from Tennessee. Those are the 2 only names that I can think of that I think would be successful leading this franchise. And for the record, Howie has to go too, but we know that's not happening. But Doug is gone. Next we need to do is hire Brian Daboll or Arthur Smith. No, I don't want to hire Eric Bieniemy because I prefer we stay away from the Andy Reid coaching tree, but either Brian Daboll.
Now, hold on. Why would you want to stay away from the Andy Reid coaching tree? It's the most successful coaching tree in the NFL. Why would you not want that? Why would you not want the most successful coaching tree? That's what you should be drawn towards. That's what you should be looking at. That's what you should be dissecting. I'm going to have to heavily disagree with that statement. I know Doug Pederson came from the Andy Reid coaching tree, and it's interesting to kind of look at this. If I ask the question, was his tenure successful? I think the answer has to be yes. Some would say no, but the guy did win the Super Bowl. So the answer is yes. If you gave me 5 years of what Doug Pederson gave me again, I'm taking that in a heartbeat. And that goes back to one of the debates I had on a Saturday podcast during a slow time of the year where I asked, would you rather have 1 Super Bowl or 10 years of sustained success? And a lot of people picked those 10 years. I said, no. It's so hard to win that Super Bowl. Give me that 1. So even if you plucked someone off Andy Reid's tree and they give you 1 Super Bowl in 5 years and then you get a couple years of 9 and 7 and then you get 1 bad year of 4 wins, I'm taking that any day of the week. I don't know why you would want to go away from that tree. That is wild. I'm almost blown away. That might be the comment that actually makes me end this bad boy. I think it is. Look what you've done. Shame on you. Look what you've done. The people who did not get their phone calls played yet, they should be angry. The problem is there's so many damn phone calls, I can't fit them all in here anyway. So obviously we're still going to be continuing this conversation throughout the week, and I'll absolutely utilize them then. So with over 20 years of experience in the solar industry, Orbit Energy empowers home to your solar experts in residential and commercial projects. They are dedicated to making sure your project is completed easily and properly. Their solar program helps eliminate your electric bill completely. They offer flexible financing solutions such as $0 down. They also provide water purification systems, backup energy services, battery storage, and more. So check out their information. It's all down below. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you next time.